Employers wanted to tighten up Section 37. Currently, it allows additional agreements to be negotiated at a plant or factory level, even once a wage agreement has been struck at an industry level. The employers wanted to prevent anything additional being discussed that could raise the cost to manufacturers. But Numsa and other unions said it would render them toothless. Well, to discuss, we're now joined live by our reporter Lueta Motlekhelwa, who has been at the Numsa briefing this afternoon. So Lueta, it's over and workers returning tomorrow.
Absolutely, Francis. The Numsa briefing has just ended now, and they've just taken the media through all the issues that they had to deal with over the last four weeks in terms of arriving to this decision that we see today. I'm sure the decision will come as a huge relief to employers. Many of them have been phoning us pretty much on a daily basis, asking us if there's any positive news on the strike in the metal and engineering sector. But to tell us more about the details and to give us more about what has been agreed upon, I'm now joined by Numsa President Mr. Andrew Chirwa, who outlined what Numsa has just announced today. Before we get to all the nitty-gritties of this deal, Andrew, is this a victory to Numsa and its members?
Look, this is a victory in our view. You would recall that when we went to a strike, employers were still talking about wages around 7% at that time. And from where we're sitting today, we have a deal that talks to 10%, in particular for majority of our members who are the lowest paid workers. We've got a deal that at least minimizes the abuse and the usage of labor brokers in this sector. We now have got a deal which begin to set up a short-time fund so that once workers are sent home for whatever reasons that employers would want to send workers home for, at least there should be some minimum payment that gets paid to workers. As we're speaking, we've got a deal in our view that begins to provide workers with what we call time off, so that workers can be able to be trained, so that workers can be able to represent, shop stewards can represent workers at a level of industry, bargaining forum, trustees forum, and all those other forums. So in our view, we think that we've been able to move. I can tell you now that we know that our initial demand was 15%. We wanted 15%. We still want 15%. But we are not new. We know for sure that at times we will not necessarily achieve what we wanted. But we also know that the struggle for workers does not start at the beginning of negotiations and end at the end of the strike. The struggle for workers is a continuous struggle. For us, we accept what is on the table now, but of course with a clear view that the workers' struggle is a continuous thing. Will continue to fight beyond even what has been achieved now, so that workers realize a better life for all of us.
The deal that you just outlined now has been actually on the table since last week Tuesday, which essentially means the strike could have ended last week Tuesday. But essentially there has been sticking issues, and one particular issue is the amendment towards Section 37. Those are the changes that employers wanted unions to make, and the concession that employers wanted. How did we arrive to this situation today where we have a deal? How did we get around the demand from employers to amend Section 37?
Look, you're absolutely right that workers since last week, overwhelmingly so, have said that we think that we're at a point where we can at least accept the wages. And the only difficulty is what you're saying, which is employers' demand. Remember, Numsa did not demand an amendment to Section 37. Employers demanded those amendments. In actual fact, employers decided that the package deal that we talk about today becomes conditional on the amendment of Section 37 in a manner in which employers would have ensured that there's no strike that takes place, especially on issues that are not covered by the agreement. I must say that it has been a battle that we had to go up and down with employers, to an extent that it was last week on Friday when we were able to find a compromise wording. And that wording is about nothing else but ensuring that we protect the existing industry or the existing plant agreements that we have in various plants. Those meetings, whether is it monthly meeting or is it any other forum that workers have, which of course is regulated by the agreement that we have, the recognition agreement at plant level. This amendment is about nothing else but to ensure that workers continue to raise issues that are not covered by the agreement, to take forward the working class struggle. That's what it's about. This compromise, of course, to us, it only affects us in so far as workers who don't have the platform at the moment or the recognition agreement is concerned. But we're quite happy that the majority of our plants have got recognition agreements which recognizes the union, recognizes the shop stewards, regulate the time off, explain what are the rights of shop stewards, what are the rights of members, the rights of companies and everywhere else. So we are of the view that the majority of our companies, as we speak, have got meetings where they sit with management. So those forums, this compromise to us was critical to make sure that employers don't go back to companies and begin to say, no, we can't talk to you anymore because we have now amended Section 37. So in our view, we think that, yes, we didn't want workers, were clear that there must not be amendment, but we think that at least from where we're sitting, there is a compromise which at least assures and protect those companies, which in our view are majority, which have platforms to take forward issues at plant level.
Now, very quickly, there are employers who have said they can only afford an 8% increase. How do you deal with those employers going forward?
Look, it's not our duty to deal with divisions within employers' organization. We think that the deal is quite fair, that all employers should be able to give workers 10%, those who deserve 10%. Those employers who claim and argue that they can't afford, there is a process to deal with that issue. Those employers, they know they can approach the bargaining council where they will have to declare indeed and open their books and prove that indeed they are unable to afford 10%. But we know that we've got many employers who just hide. Of course, majority of them are under NEASA, which they've went up and down, criticizing the negotiation, criticizing the minister's intervention, saying, no, we are about big industry, what about small industries? And of course, on a lie, on a serious propaganda against collective bargaining, because their intention is nothing else but to collapse collective bargaining so that they can continue to exploit workers in those small companies which employs roughly less than 50 workers. We think that is wrong for those type of employers to continue to want to champion a poverty wages in this country. We think we're clear that majority of employers can afford. Those that are saying they can't afford, they must not hide. They must bring books, go to the bargaining council and say, this is what we generate. Workers are clear, they know what they generate. Employers must not stop hiding. They must just give workers 10%. Those that can't, they know the process to do that.
Yes, Francis, that was Numsa President Mr. Andrew Chirwa. As you heard it, 10% is what they want across the industries. Workers are going back tomorrow, are going back to work from tomorrow, and others are expected to report to work by Thursday. Francis.
Luther, a final question for you. I think there was so much concern after the strike on the Platinum Belt about relationships between the miners and workers. Now, this manufacturing strike took longer than we expected. Is there any way for you to gauge how those relationships seem? Or can we expect stability in the manufacturing sector for the next 3 years because of this agreement? And was there any discussion at all on the costs of the strike?
Well, Francis, the issues around I'll take your last point there. The issues around the cost were not really handled. It's not an issue that was discussed today. I think these are the issues that will probably unfold in the next few days. The issues about relations between employers and employees. Well, employees are going back to work tomorrow. So there have been threats from some of the employers that they will take action against some of the workers that have been rowdy and have been violent during the strike. Numsa did say categorically today that they will defend all their members against any employer, and they did actually warn employers not to take any steps against their employees. So in terms of relationships, all these issues will probably unfold in the coming few weeks. But funny enough, actually, I did pose a similar question to a labor expert today about the relationship, and he feels that relations between employers and employees have actually been better over the last 3 years, particularly in the manufacturing sector.
That is good. And final question for you. Section 37, you were discussing it with your guest, but this prolonged the strike. It was a sticking point. For people out there who don't know what Section 37 is, can you give us a little bit of the background and basically what has been agreed to now?
Basically, Section 37, it's a section that is included in the main agreement between the employer and the employees as they're discussing now. What it entails, it actually revolves around what workers can raise at the plant level. You'll understand that these discussions that we've been talking about are discussions that are happening at the National Bargaining Council. So this is where all the employers and the unions come together. So whatever they agree, whatever agreement that they sign tomorrow, what this section says basically is that when they go back to work at plant levels, issues that were agreed, issues that were covered by the agreement that will be signed tomorrow, cannot be raised at the plant level. So employers cannot perhaps be faced with additional costs that will be negotiated at the employer levels. And these are the issues that have been ironed out between the employer and the unions.
All right, thank you so much, SABC reporter Luther Motlagelwa.